This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.
Loudon City Council August workshop to order. Good to see everybody here tonight. If there's anyone that would like to address the council, so I know several people are here to address the council about certain items that pertain to them. Is there anyone that has just a general public comment that they need to make to council? No one signed in. Just want to give you that opportunity if there's anyone here. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Good to see everybody here tonight. Have a lot of things on the agenda, a lot of good talking points, I think. So we'll get started here. Items for consideration. We started off with the recreation update. Manager Ross, I'll turn it over to you. I guess you'll introduce.
The Recreation Advisory Committee met this past week, and Parks and Rec Director Harrell is prepared to present a recommendation from that committee to this body for your consideration.
Okay, Director Harrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to make this short and sweet, as I know I mumble a lot and it's hard to understand me, so if you have any questions, slow me down and I'll try to answer those. As Manager Ross said, we've been talking about this facility seriously for the last month. We really started this, as you can see, in 1997. There is the master plan of Loudon Municipal Park. You see the red roof area? That is the community center. In 97, when the referendum was passed to build this facility and to add activities, that was phase 2 of Loudon Municipal Park, was the community center. 22, 23 years later, we're still wanting to do phase 2. We have moved to phase 3. As most of you know, a lot of those facilities are already built. The amphitheater, the walking tracks, the Lions Club Pavilion, picnic shelters. So we've not been idle. We've been doing some things, and we feel that we're proud of what we've accomplished. But we really want to move forward with this phase 2 and build this recreation center. About 50% of phase 3 has been completed. Phase 1 was completed and dedicated in, some of you, Tim Dixon, I know you have one of these. We had a dedication April the 17th in 1999, for those of you that were here. And there were probably, I would guess, 300 to 500 people came to the dedication. People were so excited in the community that we were building this facility. And everyone walked out with one of these mugs, and that was the talk of the dedication, is the rec center and the use and the need for a recreation center. We've always come down to, how do we pay for it? That's always going to be the question. So as the Recreation Advisory Committee has been discussing this project, Dr. Guider, I think, is attending us on Zoom. He's been here from day one. He has been instrumental in the building of this department, and we owe a lot of respect and honor to him for what he has done. We want to build an all-purpose facility. As we build this facility, you see that is just pretty much a basic rectangle building. The red section is a stairway. Otherwise, you don't have any angles, you don't have any cuts. And we've done that for financial reasons. We tried to come up with, we started out with Councilman Brewster as our representative. We were somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 to $10 million when we first started cutting this thing down to what we could afford. This building, as we got down to working with MBI, and I'm sorry I didn't introduce, but we have Chuck Grant with MBI here, and David Matlock. Most of you know those two that have worked in our community forever. But we decided that this needed to be a functional building. It didn't need to be a beautiful building, but I think they've done a great job of coming up with a very beautiful and functional building. A couple of questions from our committee was, we don't necessarily need 2 gyms, and even the mayor asked me tonight if we were going to get back into basketball. The purpose of 2 gyms are really just listed as a gym, but they're all-purpose rooms. You can play tennis, you can play pickleball, you can play racquetball, you can do multiple activities in those rooms. We had to call them something. So we were talking about 2 gyms. The elevated walking track, it goes all the way around the perimeter of both gyms, and an event space in the front. The event space is a much-needed item in our community, as we have a lot of activity at the Lions Club Pavilion, and we've been been told that we need space to have 200 and 300 people for weekend parties and activities. So initially, the event space had locker rooms and dressing rooms in it. So one of our Rick Castle with our recreation advisory, our recreation department, said, "Why don't we take that out and turn this into an event space?" We did that. That's about 5,200 square feet of space, maybe a little large for what we need. And also, we thought, while we're putting this together, let's talk about 2 gyms instead of just one. One gym would work great, 2 gyms would be fantastic. And the only reason is if the guys are playing basketball on one side, you can still have tennis courts on the other side for multiple activities. It's a masonry, painted interior and exterior. It's not a marble and real fancy type building, so it would be easily maintained as far as upkeep. Most of the exterior part is either masonry product or a metal product. And you'll see how, go ahead, Nicole, that was fine. You see how it sets in Municipal Park. That is a diagram of where it would be located and how it would set inside the property. The elevated walking trail, go back to that. Every time we have a meeting, every time we discuss this project, everyone says we've got to have that walking track, we've got to have that. It sets about 14 feet off the surface of the gym floor, and you can actually look down into the gym while your partners, activity is going on, children's, and you would still have plenty of activity with the walking trail. We would like to operate the facility from 6 o'clock in the morning till like 11 o'clock at night, so you can have all kinds of different, you can come and walk. We would do that with hopefully some seasonal part-time people. We'd have 8 indoor pickleball courts. Have a portable stage that we could put into the event space for people that may want to have a band or something for their event. One thing that I really thought was neat is Chuck has this design where the walking trail actually goes over the event space. We initially talked about just having the design to stop right there at the line where the event space joins the gym. And that would be a glassed off area. So you would cross right there and you can see what was going on in the event space without bothering them. We're not going to compete with any of the fitness centers in the area. We would have a small fitness area with an exercise bike, a few weights and things like that, just small activities we can accommodate. We have meeting rooms that could be 30 by 30. They could be enlarged with portable walls that could go as much as 30 by 60 or 30 by 90 for meetings in our community. We talked about having a lift elevator instead of a full service elevator just for cost purposes that would allow people to be able to get up to the elevated walking trail. You drive up, you drop your person off, you would have a covered space there, you go park and you came back. I mean, there's all kinds of activities that we've talked about. Even, we have a guy that's on our committee that's really into baseball, and he's talking about indoor batting cages. Portable. We put portable batting cages in there for folks. And the proximity of this facility is fantastic. We're within a mile of Sweetwater Creek. We're within a mile of Hampton Place. Cedar Park, the new development that's going in right now, we're within a mile. All these people can walk to this facility. And as future monies come available, as we build bridges and things, it's just the perfect location. You can actually see the backside of Hampton Place up there now, in the bottom area there that's been discussed as a donation to the city of Loudon from the developer. We're within a mile of I-75. Outdoor, all of the activities, the amphitheater, the picnic shelters and everything are very conveniently located to this. So I just think the multiple use of that park, this is the perfect setting for it. We did discuss 2 settings. We discussed a downtown location as well as this location. And the committee felt like this was a better location because of future growth and expansion. Also talked about putting large doors in the rear side so that some of the boat manufacturers that want to have a wintertime boat show a few boats off, they could reserve the space and have 5 or 6 boats in there so that folks can come by and check those out. And just, that's pretty much it. We've talked about, like I say, I've got a stack right here, and you're welcome to pick one up of the original plans that we scaled down starting about 2 years ago. And the REC, the Recreation Advisory Committee, has put a tremendous amount of work into this. But it didn't just happen overnight. Again, I've been here almost 22 years, and this has been talked about as long as I've been here. It's not just a dream. It's what the community needs, folks. And when you go to these other communities that have these facilities, they're well used. They are well used. They're not sitting idle. But they can be modified. This building can be modified in the future for things such as an outdoor swimming pool or even an indoor swimming pool. I'll take any questions. Councilman Brewster, he's on our Recreational Advisory Committee. I'm sure he's got a lot of comments he'd like to make. We have some of our staff here, some of our employees, volunteers that are on our committee, and of course, representatives from MBI, if anybody has any questions.
The only comment, we've been promising this since 1996. That's 24 years. And we owe it to our community. We levied a tax for this. So I think it's time we need to move forward and come true on our promises.
We went to MBI when they came back with a $10 million facility, we asked for half that. So we said, what could we do for half that? And that's where this drawing came in. We may be exceeding that a little bit, so we may have to look at one gym and have an option to build the second gym in the future. Where David and I talked about, or Chuck and I talked about that earlier, where it's ready to go. And if the community does grow large enough and you want to put the second gym behind it, we would be ready to put it on there. So there's all kinds of little things we could tweak like that.
Well, we'd not just cutting out a gym, we'd be cutting out our walking trail there.
The distance walking trail. And if I'm not mistaken, as you look at the picture there, that the walking trail does go all the way to the front, right? It goes over the event center.
Yes, all the way around the perimeter.
And you have the stairway, which is adjacent to the exterior walking trail at Loudon Municipal Park. So if you're running that trail and you want to run inside for a while, cool down or warm up, you would have access within 30 to 50 feet from the Municipal Park Trail.
So you said you don't have to have an elevator? Yeah.
We have to have a way to get folks upstairs to use.
And how do you do that? You said a lift, or?
We use a lift instead of an elevator. It's, an elevator could be in the cost range of $50,000, a lift could be in the range of $20,000. And it's just, it would be limited use because you're only raising that person for the walking track, but you have to have that. I mean, we have to have that available.
Is that just one office there, or is that multiple offices, or is it?
Those are just kind of, as I told Manager Ross today, those are really just, we had to write something in there, so is that an office or is it a classroom? It's just, that can be used as an office and that can be used as a classroom. We would definitely, the only thing we're lacking is probably some storage space for tables and chairs for the activities, so maybe back on the left-hand corner there, we could add some storage space.
I think it would just be important that it's overseen by somebody on your staff, or somebody needs to be there.
That's correct. And we did talk about that. If our staff is there, we're here from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, most weeks of the year. And then we would have some seasonal, part-time, retired.
Yeah.
Talk to Councilman Dixon. I mean, he's part-time. He'd like to work for $3 an hour to help us out too, so $4 an hour.
I wonder if Dr. Guider has, you said he's on.
He should be on Zoom.
Does he have any comments as to chairman?
Dr. Guider, can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. I'd like to have your comments.
Well, all I can say is that I'm with Mark and Tim and all the people who are supporting this thing. We had some architectural drawings for a community center in Municipal Park for over 20 years, and probably we've met at least 4 times to 6 times a year, Recreation, no more than that, Recreation Advisory Committee, and we probably talked about it almost every meeting for 20 years. It's time, I think, I'm in hopes that we can press on with this project and make it a reality. It's clear to me that the people in this community need it and deserve it, and hopefully we can get it done.
Okay. Thanks. I think it's good that we hear his endorsement as chairman. So.
A couple of other things we've talked about in the future is Chief Webb. I haven't mentioned this to him, but it's the possibility of a location for the police department having an office there as well, and maybe even the county and state police departments where they could go in and do paperwork with visibility and be a part of security by checking in and out of the building. There's just all kinds of options when you look at the building as far as the space we'd use indoor.
Okay, any other questions from council members? From Mark? Or?
I am in support of this building being out there. That's something that we've been looking for since 1997, when we bought this property and built the complex out there. This is something we were looking for back then. And the only key issue now is paying for it. We've got, I don't know if there's grants out there we can get, how we're going to fund that situation, but I'm behind it 100%. Whatever we've got to do as a city, I feel like we need to do it.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee, for the work y'all put in for that.
Mayor, since this is Parks and Rec, why don't we play pitch and catch?
Okay.
There is another guest actually next on the agenda. Item B is the USDA-funded paving plan report. When we come to that item, we can introduce our guest and his role in that. But what we can do is also ask him, because since I've been here, of course, Mark and I have discussed the community center every year, and we've always discussed it being grant-led. Mark has worked hard and applied repeatedly through the development district for Parks and Rec grants to specifically fund this. Those just haven't been successful. It's highly competitive. Every community would desire to have something like this. So what I'd like to do is ask our finance consultant what Mark's proposed budget of half of $10 million, which is $5 million, would look like in our current revenue expenditure framework.
Okay. All right. I'll let you introduce him.
Sure. This is Rod Ballard with the CPA firm Jackson Thornton. He was here for our utility board meeting this afternoon at 4:30. And what Rob spoke to was a feasibility study for broadband installation and maintenance within our utility district. That's a very specialized study. His firm is also was engaged by us to do a feasibility study for the paving plan. That's the $4 million for the 24 some odd miles of paving throughout the city of Loudon. He is prepared to speak to that today, but Rod, if you would be so kind, could you also comment generally on what $5 million in additional expenditures would look like?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
My voice is cutting out, so I apologize. I'll try to speak clearly and thoroughly through for the questions. So, as Ty said, I've been hired to look at the paving plan and the USDA feasibility study. So my firm is very familiar with USDA. We've been working with them my entire career. I've been there 26 years. So USDA offers a variety of loans and grant programs. And certainly in this specific case, the paving plan, the $4 million that we're looking at, we know that there's some debt service rolling off of the city in 2021. The paving plan fits nicely there because we would add approximately the same amount in debt service for that plan. And my job is to take the city's financial statements and forecast them for the next 5 years. within the rules of USDA to show them the feasibility of your projects. That's my ultimate goal. USDA is the bank, and the bank is looking, can the city pay back their debt service? That's the main object of USDA in this case. So the answer is yes. On the paving plan, the $4 million, we have the debt service availability beginning in 2021, which matches the time frame that we're talking about for the paving project. So through my work there in the paving plan, it's given me the ability to assess generally your financial ability to take on another potential debt that we're discussing here, which would be the $5 million for the community building. So it's my opinion that you would need to take on and look for additional revenue streams in order to afford that debt service. In other words, everything you've been saying tonight building up about the community center is true. The trick is paying for it and looking for additional sources of funds. And so that's approximately $300,000, $350,000 a year in annual debt service. On the low side, that's at about a 1.875% interest rate, approximately 20 years, and that was actually a $6 million outlay of capital. So that is with no grant money. That's you funding it all through debt over a long-term 20-year debt issuance is what that would take. So you would need somewhere between $350,000 to $400,000 annually in additional revenues to fund the debt side of that. And once again, that's a high-level view. We have not completed all of our work on the paving study, but as I was into it, one of the first things we do is run a debt service schedule for you to ascertain the financial situation as it regards to long-term debt. So, Mr. Mayor, that's okay. Where we are in that study.
Did you go ahead and figure that in pennies? How many pennies that would equal?
Only at a very high level. I'd like to do a little more work, but I would tell you that it appeared to me it looked like 10 as my first estimate.
I think 10 would only generate $270,000.
Right. And the reason why I figured 10 was that we would look at stretching out that debt from 20 years to 30 years, because we would have that ability under an eligible project loan with USDA. And so that's going to help that debt service.
And you calculate it back at $5 million, not $6.
Yes, sir, and $5 million. $5 million for 30 years helps us considerably and lowers that debt service that you would be facing. Great question. Thank you for helping me fill in the gap on that particular issue.
Okay, any questions? Good information. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public safety, the Loudon Fire Department about, I guess, a fire truck.
Yeah, we were asked during the budget process to follow up with specifics on the fire truck. We're talking about large expenditures here. So Chief Brubaker is prepared to come and give some fairly specific prices on the fire truck that's in this year's budget cycle, as well as some good news about a recent grant award.
Okay, all right, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have several options to pursue with the purchase of the fire truck. I know some of the council members have expressed if we prepay the fire truck, you can see there's a 4% savings, which is this is over $27,000. So that's if we prepay the fire truck up front. We have in this year's budget $134,874 for a payment, for our lease payment. So if we use that amount as a down payment, we receive 4% savings on that, which is just over $5,000. And then our new payment for 5 years comes down to $100,000. And then the other option is to use what we have as a budget this year for our fractional first payment, which would probably do until 2021, 2022, because the build time for a fire truck is roughly 9 months right now. So if we order in October, by October, it's going to push us back to the next year's budget. So that's pretty much our three options on the table for the purchase of the fire truck. Again, Pierce Manufacturing does not matter which one to them. The only thing, as I talked to the manager about, Pierce does do a price increase every 2 to 3 years, and that price increase does go into effect in October of this year. So if we do not order by October, the price of the fire truck will go up by 3.5%.
And you say this should put us in good shape for years to come?
Our oldest fire truck, after this, will be our ladder truck, which is a 2010 model. And typically, the fire trucks have at least a 20-year shelf life unless they have major issues. So we should be good until at least 2030, unless something major happens to a fire truck.
Okay. And what year is the one?
That's a 2010, one's 2014, one's 2016. This will be a 2021. So they will be spaced out, which has been our plan, because our previous engines were all bought in 1996, same make, same model, same specifications, everything. So they started wearing out at the exact same time in the early, about mid-2000s.
But what year is the one at Station 2?
1996.
96.
Yeah, and that thing's beyond fixing, really.
24 years.
We've got some prices to get it fixed up better, but it's in rough shape.
It's needing replaced.
Yes, it does.
And you would, I'm sure, try to salvage it or sell it?
The last one, I think we donated the last one to a volunteer department.
Okay.
They would not bring probably more than $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
Another option that has been discussed is keeping it as a not an emergency vehicle, but used for the street department or us for wash downs or occasionally we have street wash downs when there's mud in the streets, we use it for something like that as well.
Mm-hmm. And the 134 is already in the budget for this?
That's in this year's budget.
It's in this year's budget.
Now let's move over to the next year plus continue with another.
If we use that 134 as a down payment and pay before the build, we receive a 5%, we get 4% savings on that, and then our new payments would be just over $100,000. I think it's 104. And if we do not use that 134 as a down payment, that'll be our payment for 5 years, the 134.
Nicole, do you have any suggestions, as far as the budget goes?
The benefit of using the lease option is that we maintain a higher cash balance, which puts us in a better position to pursue grants that require a local match. That is what you're weighing pros and cons of. We're fortunate to be in a position to consider either option. That was the reasoning for going with the 5-year lease in this year's budget, was to preserve our cash balances.
Yeah.
That is absolutely your discretion on it.
If we go with the $4 million on the USDA, is the payment on this going to be affected, or can we absorb when we pay the one off in 21?
We budgeted the payment.
We budgeted for
It's already been budgeted.
This is all budgeted, the numbers were.
Okay.
Okay, good. Manager Ross, do you have a recommendation other than what we see here?
I think, Chief Brubaker, Nicole Curtis, and I, we've met on this. We've crunched the numbers. I think the key here is the balance between needs and wants. Obviously, public safety, we need a fire truck. Obviously, the roads have to be paved. It's been quite a while. For this community center, it's been a long-term want. And striking the right balance between wants and needs, means spreading things out, spreading out payments. Yes, there would be a incremental cost savings in purchasing the fire truck outright. But if we spread out those costs over time, with the discount that Chief Brubaker wisely negotiated, we'll even come in under budget on what we budgeted for this fire truck. And that frees up revenues for other projects, such as the community center and what we're talking about here with a second long-term debt issuance.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Thanks for the information and the work y'all done on this.
Yeah, the other thing, Mr. Mayor, is Nicole just put a picture up. We did receive notification that we were successful in a FEMA grant application. The application was for a vehicle exhaust removal system. That's a picture of a demonstration of what one would look like in a fire apparatus bay. And the big key to these things, cancer in the fire service has become a big topic, not only from what we are exposed to on a fire scene, but in the apparatus bay when you start a fire truck, the harmful toxins from starting the fire truck. So this captures that and never exposes the firefighter to the toxins of an apparatus. And that grant's the amount of $70,000, and our portion's $3,300.
Oh, wow.
33.
Good job. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions about the grant? Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
So we're putting the, Jim, we're putting the $4 million on the agenda, the fire truck, and the grant so far?
So far, yeah.
Well, if we could pause with the USDA paving loan decision, that will be ripe this month. We still have to pursue and complete the feasibility study that Mr. Ballard alluded to. It's part of the grant loan application, and so that's going to be more in your September timeframe.
Okay, so that'll come up again.
Come in and see the problem.
Right. It just takes time to secure this financing.
Okay.
And we wouldn't bring it to you until we had a more complete package.
Okay, all right.
You've already budgeted the $4 million, but we promised to come back with you with the specifics. Those specifics are not ready yet.
Okay. Is everybody clear on that? Okay. All right, next item is the Loudon Police Department.
Yes, Chief Webb is here to discuss, like Chief Brubaker, a couple of topics. One being the department's push for outside accreditation, and another is follow-up on a siren alert system.
Okay.
We'll make an effort to explain the professional accreditation. Professional accreditation for law enforcement is basically an industry standard. And we already know that the City of Loudon Police Department, the community has a good police department, but when you achieve accreditation, it basically is having a level of professionalism that a standard has been set that we meet, and that way you can compare the level of professionalism with other communities' police departments. The Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police has an accreditation program that they began about 8 years ago, and many agencies across the state of Tennessee have been working towards that accreditation. I guess to kind of put it in a sense of competition, Lenore City's already achieved this accreditation, so we don't want to be left behind. And so some of the things that we have to do to achieve this accreditation, first of all, we have to appoint an accreditation manager. I wanted to let you know that to kind of step back and explain to you a little bit why I selected the accreditation manager that I have. 38 years ago, when I first got into law enforcement, they created the Post Commission, the Peace Officer Standards of Training Commission, that holds us to a standard of training. And so the Post Commission has each agency recognize a training officer they refer to as a general departmental instructor. And our general departmental instructor for the City of Loudon Police Department, Sergeant Bill Evans, since he already is working in that realm to make sure that we meet those professional standards within training, I thought it was an obvious choice to appoint Sergeant Evans to also be our accreditation manager. So with that, I've got Sergeant Evans here tonight to talk to you a little bit and explain a little bit more what this police accreditation is.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think the chief sort of wanted me to not go into this too deeply because it's a 3-year process. It's pretty involved. There's a series of benchmarks that are, for lack of better terms, they get more involved as we go. And when they start out as just a small handful of things I have to do for the first 3 months, but then by the time we get to the 6-month periods, I'm having to come up with standards and proofs for policies, for directives. I could really get into this, and it's going to eat up a lot of time, so I won't. I'm going to paint a broad stroke. So, long story short, let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. The TLEA, which is the Tennessee Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, it was created by the Chiefs of Police, the association, as the chief alluded to. Basically, to get this professional standard of accountability, management, and the operations of the police departments in the state of Tennessee. Why is it important? The tool it provides, the blueprint it provides, it gives the chief, the command staff, a really good, efficient use of the resources, how we can get our guys out there in the community, make sure they're doing what they need to be doing, give them all the tools they need in their toolbox to help our community. The professionalism is the main thing it does. It gives us, we're able to look at this demographic across the state of Tennessee of agencies our size, and we can really compare ourselves to them, make sure we're all doing what's best. So understanding the old way is not the only way. We hear that a lot. The old way is not the only way. Understand that change it's a positive long-term commitment to our guys in the community. Like I said, it's a 3-year process, and it's pretty involved. Timeline. So we applied for this back in April. We were granted acceptance into it April 29th of this year. Met the first benchmark on July 2nd, almost 30 days before we needed to. I'm going to brag on myself on that for a minute. But we're in the second benchmark phase now. So due to COVID, that's sort of got us held back a little bit. I've got to receive some training from the state, and we all know that right now that's sort of difficult. But we're working on it. We're getting there. Additional benchmarks, 9 months, 18 months, 30 months, 36 months. So, like I said, each of those benchmarks, there's a certain set of things that are due, and we are assigned a mentor from an agency. That's what I'm waiting on hopefully this week. I believe it's going to be the Sevierville Police Department. They're involved in this program, and they sort of give me somebody to help make sure I'm on the right track, to put it simply. At the 36-month mark, that's the 3-year period, we have a whole panel come into the agency, and they pretty much nitpick everything I've done, and we either get granted compliance, and we're good to go. It's on a 3-year term, so every 3 years we have to be reevaluated. So it's about as broad and as quick as I can make it. If anybody wants to see the specifics, you know where I'm at. I'd be happy to go through it with you. I've got a book about that thick that we can go through it on. But basically there is, don't hold me to this exactly, but this started out, like Bear said, about 8 years ago. I think there was just about 30 agencies for a long time. I know there's 59, I think, are accredited now, actually have got their accreditation. There's 78 participating now. So it's really, the last few years, it's starting to take off. Everybody sees the benefits from it.
That's great. So, maybe any questions? A lot of hard work's already went into it, sounds like.
Yeah, I'm not sure who knew we were doing it. So I think that was the main thing we want to do, is let you know where we're going and what we're trying to do. So.
Any questions from council? Anyone?
Do we grade ourselves, or do we get like an inspection type thing once a year from the state, or how's that work?
Well, Councilman Brewster, every time we achieve a benchmark, we actually get graded from the staff at the state. So they have to grant us pretty much permission to go to the next benchmark. That makes sense. About as simple as I can make it. So basically, I'm submitting, we bought some software to help us do this. Everything goes to the state. They go through it. And like I said, until that end of the process, 3 years from now, then they'll send the team in and actually do a physical on-site. Yeah, and then at 2.5 years, we'll start scheduling. We'll be approaching that 3-year mark. That's 3-year cycle. They'll come back in every time after that and actually do a physical assessment to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're keeping, whatever standards are changing, because we all know that changes. Yeah, I mean, it's a really flowing document, so to speak. So making sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Evans.
Thank you, Sergeant Evans. Mr. Mayor, I just want to add that I'm proud of Chief Webb. I'm proud of the department pursuing this. It ain't easy. And, the money that flows to the city, here at the accounting department, we're audited. Someone comes in and nitpicks us. The fire department, ISO, comes in and audits the fire department, scores the fire department. This is a measure of accountability that's never been taken on by the police department before. And Chief Webb and I have been talking about this for 2 years now. And Chief Webb is in a unique position in his career, to leave something better than he found it. And I just applaud his leadership on this issue.
Okay, thank you, Manager Ross.
And the best thing is, we're going to be able to do this within our budget.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
There's a lot of, asking for money tonight, and I don't think we'll have to ask for any more money to achieve this. It's just going to be a lot of hard work on me and the staff of the police department.
Thank you, Chief Webb. You have another item, I think, don't you?
Yes. You want me to jump right on into that, Ty?
Yes, sir.
We formed a committee quite a while back, and we've been looking at trying to get an emergency warning system for the city. And to give you a little update on where we've been and where we're at right now, if you remember, we were going to try to put some money and some time and some effort into the old sirens that we had, and we just decided that really just wasn't going to work out, because if you try to patch up something like that and make it work, well, what would happen to us liability-wise if that system didn't work? And so we started looking for a better way to do it, and we have a vendor, MCI, that has provided us with our public safety radio system, both the police and the fire department. And I've got Sarah Thamert here tonight. Sarah, if you want to come up, she's got some information for you, and she brought some folks from Wayland with her to help you describe the system that we would ask you to consider to install for us here for our emergency warning system. I want these folks to come help because I just knew you guys would have some questions, and I want to make sure you got accurate answers.
Okay.
I can always try to answer them, but it's just better to have the professionals here. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you. Mayor Harris and Council, as Chief introduced, I've had the privilege of working with the City of Loudon here with Critical Communications through MCA. MCA is let's see if we can get our clicker here. We are a critical communications company serving both public sector and private. I've had the opportunity of working with Chief Webb for a variety of solutions, and he came to us with the need for your siren system here and looking at mass notification with your siren system. MCA serves over 11 states, and we have over 30,000 customers. And with that, with our myriad of solutions that we have, and we talked about our footprint here, we have wonderful experts here that we can bring in for projects like this for end-to-end solution expertise through engineering, through deployment. And here with me, I have Joe Collison with MCA and also our Wheeling rep here from Nashville. And I will have Kelly here who will talk about our Wheeling solution and why MCA is the largest distributor of Wheeling siren system, why we chose Wheeling specifically.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having us in. My name is Kelly Roney. I'm with Wheeling Engineering. Wheeling is a manufacturer of a lot of emergency warning products, lights and sirens you see on trucks, fire trucks. Police are very familiar with the Wheeling name. Also including outdoor warning sirens. Certainly a simple term is tornado warning sirens. Wheeling Engineering is a company that's headquartered in Connecticut, has 2 manufacturing plants, one in Connecticut, one in New Hampshire. What's very important about Wheeling and really stands out is that it's not just the parts and pieces aren't just assembled in America, they're not just made in America, it's actually manufactured right here. So every single piece of the Wheeling system, from down to a screw up to the 400-watt speaker drivers, the speaker heads, it's all manufactured by a Wheeling employee. So you're going to have the quality there, and certainly support of a homegrown company. Certainly we, as sirens have evolved from hand cranks to air raid sirens, the idea of a siren has really never changed, right? I mean, getting the outdoor alert, getting the attention of people that you're looking for, whether that be at a community center, high school football game, or simply a walking trail or somewhere nearby. it's a proven time-proven type of warning system, along with other types of warning. The Wheeling system uses electronic. There's no moving parts. It's not mechanical. So you're not using rotors and wires and fans and brushes and that sort of thing. It's all battery powered through. So it's battery powered. So if you have a system goes down, certainly when you have a severe weather storm come through, power is one of the first things to go out. So clicking on a TV might not be available, the radio might not be available, but your outdoor warning siren will still be available. So you still have that way of alerting, whether that be in the middle of the night or, like I said, for a severe lightning storm and need to get people cleared out of the park. Do that as well. So, do I have another slide?
Yeah, we talk about the decibels.
Okay, so there's a kind of a picture of the vortex. This is the siren that we're proposing for the city of Loudon. It's one of our most popular items, certainly our most best-selling. If you can think about it as like a flashlight of sound. It's going to extend, we usually design with about a mile radius of each, and it rotates 360 on a gear-driven rotor. I guess we'll talk about the design a little bit more, but we're going to talk about the decibels and the strength of the system and the expectation that you can expect from that siren. But if there's questions about certainly anything from the Wheeling side of it, I'm happy to answer those questions. MCA is a factory trained, certified, and a master distributor for Wheeling products. So they are the highest level of factory training and of distribution in the United States. So they've been doing this for a long time and well within their expertise.
Do you have any of these systems in the neighboring communities? The type system you're talking about the lab?
Not closest neighbor. We sold Estes Springs last year.
Okay.
South Central.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're speaking specifically of Wheeling, we don't have any right here in this kind of area. In East Tennessee, certainly I'll have to come up with the list. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
And that would be more MCA specific. So again, we are a master distributor for Wheeling. However, we're a little bit newer in our footprint with really serving East Tennessee at this quality. So we've been in the radio. When most people look at MCA, they think of the radio business. We're the preferred partner for Motorola. So two-way radio systems has been our bread and butter for the area. But when it comes to Wheeling specific in East Tennessee, we're a little bit newer in the East Tennessee market, but we certainly serve all across the country with Wheeling. Definitely have relatable counties that we can refer to.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the list of recommendations we can get that if you'd like to hear one, see one, talk about another one, because it's easy to talk about, but when you hear it, it's impressive. You want to go into this?
Yeah, sure.
The design?
So my name's Joe Collis, and I'm with Sarah at MCA. I've been doing this about 20 years. So what our task was to design an outdoor warning system to cover as much as the cities we can, but be mindful of budget constraints, and let's do this efficiently and effectively as we can. So in that conversation was, let's utilize our most high-powered, most cost-effective siren possible, and that's that Wheeling Vortex R4. So when we get into the system design after this slide, we're going to see what this slide actually means. So essentially what Kelly alluded to was that mile radius. We're talking about the footprint of effective coverage of that siren. As that siren head turns, it's going to saturate the community with sound. How much sound and where's it going? That's the key, right? So what we're designing off of is that just about a 6,000 foot radius mark of effective siren coverage from the placement of that siren, right? So be mindful too that when we talk about these siren placements, everything's flexible. Because they are battery powered, because they do receive communications wirelessly from a radio, they can go just about anywhere. As long as we can get AC power to them, and even then, we can put them on solar, so they're really flexible from their placement perspective. Which one is it? Now, the counterpart to the siren itself is, and this is what brings the old idea of technology of the siren sound. That hasn't changed much of its intention. Its intention is to let the community know that there's something going on. The parts and pieces in that siren have changed, and Wheelin's done a fabulous job of continuing to develop that product and modernize it as technology's become, as it's grown so rapidly over the past 15 years. Now, the tag team to that siren is this front-end software, right? So how are we controlling the sirens? What's dictating when they go off? So our software called Rapid Warn, which is exclusively held by MCA in partnership with Wheelin to be able to communicate two-way, to be able to have diagnostic capability come back from those sirens so we can test them, feel good that they're healthy, that when we do need them, they're going to function. The key to this software is that we have a tag into the National Weather Service. So we're pulling data in from them constantly to evaluate that storm prediction office on the polygon data that they issue against your community. So essentially what happens is when that polygon comes out from the National Weather Service, we plop that right into the software, we compare it to the siren system in your community, and you can have this configured in a manner in which if that polygon is affecting your community, not the county, but your city itself. So we're not relying upon weather could be great here and it's horrible on another end of the county. We want to make these sirens as effective as possible. One, we want to make sure the community is aware that when they're hearing the sirens, we mean business. It's not like the old days of what they call blue sky syndrome. You look up in the air, you hear a siren, it's blue skies, you ignore it. Well, over years of hearing that, it become less effective. So we're going to impact that immediately. The second part of that is we're going to shorten the timeline in which we're going to activate. So we're going to trigger right when that weather forecast office, that storm prediction center says, here's the path of the storm. So we're going to shorten the time to allow you to get that information out to your community as quickly as possible. So that's how we're going to modernize the old idea of the siren itself. Wheelin's done a good job of modernizing their siren with electronic components. This is how you bring it forward with technology. The second part of that is we have an option, which I don't think we have proposed, but we have an option for a community opt-in portal. So everybody wants to talk about, well, why do I need sirens since everybody's got a cell phone? Well, first, not everybody has a cell phone. Second, they're not always reliable, got to be charged, have to be within service. There's lots and lots of different issues there. But we can set up an opt-in portal to allow your community to go into a website and register, receive text alerts straight from you as the city, from our software that says, when these conditions match, whether that's severe thunderstorm watches, warnings, tornado warnings, flash flood, whatever your severe weather outlook, doesn't matter. If the National Weather Service issues against it, we can then communicate that back to your public. And that's, again, that's a one-time fixed cost purchase, and there's not a usage charge after that either. So that's kind of how we try to add value to the software position in conjunction with the siren itself. So what you see here is where we've done a brief system design to try to cover the entire city and all the way up into to the golf course area up there, if you can see that. And what you're seeing is, in yellow, you're seeing what's considered 70 dB or greater of sound coverage, which is what FEMA dictates as if, assuming your average ambient noise, the average noise coming from traffic or you're at a ball field or wherever, assuming that that's 60 decibels, we need to be 10 decibels above that. So if average is 60, then that's your effective radius. But if your ambient noise is down to 50, and you guys know if you've ever had any sound readings done ever, out in those rural areas, it's certainly in the 50s for sure. So we know that our effectiveness doesn't stop at that yellow line. It's somewhere in that yellow and red line. So that's where these placements have been considered. On top of the fact that I think we're on position number 1, we're over here in the high school area. So that's got an immediate impact for a high level of outdoor activity. Number 2 is over here on the other end, on the west end of the city. And then the third one is up here in the community surrounding the golf course. And right now, as it stands, our budgetary figure says $102,395 gets you the 3 sirens we're talking about in the front-end software that we spoke about that has the National Weather Service plugged in. And just to give you an idea, the opt-in portal would cost you around between $5,000 and $6,000 one-time fixed purchase.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to point out, while it's fresh on your mind with regards to the geography and the aerial overlay, I wanted to remind you that Joe said those positions can be pushed real easily because all this is mounting on a power pole. And it don't even have to have power going to the pole. So if we decided, for example, I'm just using it for example, the big concern we had was outdoor activity. You know, somebody might be outside, I'll have their phone. Well, so the golf course would be an obvious place for it. Well, as you see, it's reaching all the way across the river over, and I think that's Roane County over, isn't it, Johnny, when you cross the river down the golf course. So if you wanted to pull that particular location, you could pull it back a little bit closer into a more densely, or a closer area that's into the city, I guess, and instead of broadcasting all the way across the river, we could broadcast more into the city and reposition these a little bit more as we saw fit to do. It's easy to do that. That's the point I was trying to make.
That's exactly right. You know, the mobility we have, the flexibility we have of siren placement, you essentially just need to have some easement, some access to the ground you want to put this pole in, and you're good to go from there. And we're flexible from a design perspective. It's very easy to manipulate, control that. We can tinker with this, you know, shift them around. That's very, very achievable.
And really, the two sirens, we just couldn't capture the whole city with the 2 sirens. That's, you know, that again, it's 3 sirens. There's some wiggle room here to make sure that everyone's covered.
There's not different sirens for different warnings, are they? They're the same sound, it's the same.
So Wheeling manufactures a siren that comes with 6 standard tones. Now, those tones are designed to be variable enough that they'd be distinguishable in some way. So what we see in a lot of communities is they may have a test tone that might be different than their actual weather warning tone.
That's what I was wondering. If they were testing it, what would make me know not to?
Well, no, the only way that you know to test it typically, again, is just typical behavior from what we see out of customers is that they test at the same time, same day, so it becomes a routine to say, you know, is it the first Wednesday of the month at noon? Is it every Tuesday at 3 p.m.? Whatever your testing routine audibly is, it's really up to you. But that's a lot of public training when it comes to repetition. And again, totally, you know, those tones are choosable by you, their duration, when you want to set this off from a testing perspective, completely up to you. And most customers avoid that test day if there's any potential chance of inclement weather to not cause any further confusion.
Once they're installed, do you maintain them or do you?
Yes, we have a full service maintenance crew as well. If you wanted to.
Is that included?
It is not included in that purchase price. It is.
And what would that price be for?
If I had to estimate, I would say that annually, if we did an annual preventive maintenance, come out, we inspect all 3 sirens, control point, optimize, make sure all those nuts and bolts are all turned. I would say we're probably averaging about $3,500 to do a few. So.
What about software updates?
Software updates are included with the inversion that you purchase. We'll include software updates all the way through development. And just to give you an idea, we probably change versions on an average of about 2 years. But we continue to support that version all the way back to our original version of software came out in 2009. We still have customers using that version, and we're still supporting that version.
I see it's got the 5-year parts warranty, but what's the life expectancy of the sirens themselves? Is there?
You want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, the life expectancy typically on these things is about 20 years, 30 years, especially the speaker heads. I mean, each siren as it's being manufactured is rigorously tested through environmental chambers for vibrations, for dust and wind, temperature changes. So these things are all over the world in harsh environments, and you still see them up in the same. So you can change the electronics, perhaps that might 10, 15 years, but the actual speaker head itself, it'll last you like 20 to 30 years.
I had a conversation with a customer, International Paper, down in Pensacola, Florida on Friday. They are utilizing equipment that was manufactured in 1999 in a paper mill in the harsh environment that they have to have especially sealed equipment, the closer you are to all that paper, the actual paper making process, you have to have coded electronics. So this equipment has been in service since 1999 and still functioning. Now we're pushing it, but we're still trucking along.
This price you gave us, is that the solar?
That is the AC version. Solar would move each unit about $2,000.
And what would be the expectancy of the solar batteries?
As far as life expectancy, solar, we have regardless, the siren's going to use batteries regardless, whether it's AC,
right.
You're just changing the charging source. But the life expectancy of batteries is a replacement cycle of about 3 to 5 years.
What's the cost of one of those batteries?
Each siren has 2, and those batteries cost about $120 a piece.
Good.
It's nothing crazy. We use an interstate battery. It's something readily available, easily accessible, not expensive.
So we can change them ourselves?
Absolutely.
I'm in favor of a solar system. That would be, to me, it would be more effective.
Going down the road, longevity.
Yeah, plus we'd have to run power to it.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to try to make a point for Councilman Brewster. You're talking about their system in this area. Not for any derogatory reason, but now, Joe, you're from Alabama, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think everybody remembers Alabama had been devastated by tornadoes. And I wouldn't want us to have a knee-jerk reaction, because I think that's when business would have picked up in Alabama after the devastating tornadoes that they had in that area. And so Sarah's company, when we first came to call it, basically headquartered down in Chattanooga. And so in the North Georgia, Northern Alabama area, there's a lot more of these systems. And so I was just wanting to address Councilman Brewster asking about in the East Tennessee area. I think that based on the occurrences that have occurred in that area is why they're more prevalent in that area.
Well, and I'll say this, there's some filling out process for MCA has taken a radio business that's been comprised of small businesses for the last 40 years and has basically created a larger business. And what that's done for us is extended our resources to an unbelievable level. The level of serviceability we can give a customer today is completely different than what we could 5, even 10 years ago. The benefit to you, of course, is that now you have factory trained and serviceable personnel available to you that maybe weren't available before. Our impact is that I've not always worked for this company. My company before this was acquired by MCA, so about 9 months ago. And so we're still filling out territories and having these conversations about expanding areas. And to his point, we've had great success in Alabama and Georgia. It's been a heavily marketed territory. And, we've got business with customers around the area that have 225 sirens in a system in Jefferson County, Alabama, all the way to 1 siren in Hartsville-Charleston County, right? So everything in between. Everybody has a need, and we have the ability to deliver to whatever you need.
Good presentation. Any other questions?
One more question. We'll be voting on this in 2 weeks. Could you bring one of your sirens and just...
You could.
Do that.
If that's what you want to hear.
I would like to hear it.
Yeah, we've got one. We've got one on a demo trailer we can pull up here. So it wouldn't be the exact model that you have. The one you have, because it is a head that turns, not the best thing to try to lift in the air and then have to spin around on a trailer. But we've got a fixed unit that's omnidirectional. You can hear it. It'd be plenty loud enough for the city county council meeting. That's for sure.
It'd be good. I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll bring earplugs as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are you willing to buy anything sound unheard?
That's right.
Thank you guys for your time.
A good presentation. Thank you. Any questions about that from council, from the budget standpoint, from the...
Thanks, Bert.
I think this is something that we had discussed using the COVID money for at one point in time.
Sure.
Is that still?
It's an eligible project for those funds. That's approximately $158 that came from the state, and we've it's just a matter of filling out an application before April 2021.
Right. That money is, I think, as Andy said, I think it's something we've talked about.
That would get us for the summer pack too.
Yeah, and it is an eligible expense.
That's correct.
Okay, next up is Courthouse Square investment and Wendell Redmond. Thank you. Manager Ross, you want to introduce Wendell?
Sure. Wendell Redmond is with Christmas Decor. It's a company in Lenore City. They provide specialty lighting to a variety of projects, including downtown commercial districts. And we're looking, of course, this is item D, Courthouse Square investment. This would be a Courthouse Square investment eligible expenditure. And these next two items we'll look at would both be shared assets for our community rather than individual grants. And we have about $400,000 or so available in that Courthouse Square fund. And both these projects would be shared assets that would be shared by all, really. And I think and would recommend as a great use of these funds.
Manager Ross talked to me about this, and we met with Wendell a couple of months ago, I guess, and just talked around some ideas, and he's got a proposal here to kind of show what his company does. Wendell.
Okay, thank you very much for having us here. It's a real joy. This is my home county, you know what I mean? So it's great to work at home. We've owned this company for about 17 years. We've been seen on CNN, Disney World, Southern Living, even the local news, all that stuff carries our stuff. We were at the Gatlinburg Sky Bridge today. We'll be putting the same type of lighting up there this year. If you've seen lights from it last year, we did that. So we know this product. I brought Dennis Fanning with me today. He's from Atlanta. He's done it on Chick-fil-A's down there in some of these pictures. Can we scroll? Who's doing that? Can you scroll? You're right there. So this is what I talked with Mayor Jeff Harris about. We walked down through there, and there's approximately 7 buildings there, if I'm not mistaken. And the red is what we projected. The blue, if you can see that, is an option if we need to. The P's are where the power would need to be put, so there's no power there currently, I don't think. But that's where they would need to be put to make this light work. So what have you got? Have you got some product there that we can show everybody? We can actually, if you'd like for us to, we can plug it in and let you see it. I mean, is there a little power outlet right here somewhere? This is they reached out to us and wanted a permanent lighting. This company I own is called Christmas Decor. We're mainly the holiday Christmas decorating, but we're also holiday and event. We do weddings and all kind of stuff. So this is a permanent lighting. I wish, is these guys still here on the police guys? They left? They're still. You know, this stuff right here is, in my opinion, good for emergencies too. If you've got everybody keyed into where you know what color we are, I mean, you could, or even if you got a tornado coming, you could change it to a certain color. So you'd have access to this, and Dennis can show you here on his phone. We can adjust these lights. You can have them steady burn. If Loudon's playing Lenore City, you know what, we want, orange and black on there, right? I went to school in Lenore City. My wife did. Dr. Guider raised our 3 sons, and Dr. Bowman's our dentist, and I know the rivalry. Mr. Matlock and we went, Lenore City used to beat Loudon. We don't do, Loudon beats us all the time now, so we could change colors like that on football night. He's got to get this thing synced, but he can use it from his phone. So what we would do is we'd give access to whoever. Ty, we could give it to you. He could go down there. As long as we give him access, he can go down there and change these colors. They can run. They can be stationary. Whatever you don't want to do. So, Dennis, you didn't bring the track in here, did you? But these go in a track.
It's in my truck.
We can go out here and let you see it, or we can show it to you afterwards if you'd like. So you can change it for Christmas. You can do Halloween. You can do...
Sorry, what were those colors again?
Red and white.
No, the Loudon City colors.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes. So you can adjust, this is an RGB product, if anybody's familiar with it, that's red, green, and white, or red, green, and RGB, red, green, and blue. There is no white involved in this, so you have to adjust the colors to get the perfect white color you want. So they can flicker, they can run, and if you put it on all those buildings, see, the reason why we put the power where we did is you want the power to go, those lights to go at the same time. So that's why the power has to be where it is there. And these will be mounted up there. They can be stuck in, screwed up there, whatever, if you got metal, if you got wood, or whatever you got. So can y'all see that okay? But this goes inside a track, a clear track, okay? So it's protected from the weather. So what we did was there's approximately, this has been done, we did this up in Wrigley Field in Chicago. There's about 5,000 of these. Downtown here, I think we figured about 1,500 feet. So it's in view of the courthouse is what it was. That's what Jeff had talked to me about. It's just view of the courthouse. So there's some pictures there, and I've brought one I can leave with you, a hard copy. But it's about 1,500 feet, and which comes up to about $46,000. And you get a free 1 year, not free, it don't cost you anything. It includes a 12-month complimentary proactive maintenance on it. After that, we bill at $50 an hour. But this stuff is made in, can I come up here? Mm-hmm. This stuff is made in 5-foot sections. So we're 2-foot sections or 25-foot sections. So if this 2-foot section goes out, this is coaxial. You can just unscrew it, take it out, and put one book back in. So it's not a big deal. If something happens to go out on it, but it shouldn't be going out. But if it did, for whatever reason, it's an easy fix. You might can do it and not even pay me to do it. So Dennis, you got something you'd like to share on that before we ask for any questions?
On the, I'm sorry, I was playing with lights. My apologies.
Yeah, he'll do that forever if you let him.
Like I said, if it was St. Patrick's Day, they could be green. If it was, Alzheimer's awareness or anything, special, it could be changed to purple, whatever color.
So there's literally just a color wheel that you can pick. You can pick whatever color you're wanting it to be. Sorry. There's literally just a color wheel that you can pick whatever color you want it to be, and he's playing with it right there. It's really easy. The beauty of this is this can be done from the beach, because of how the connectivity is, so you don't have to be on location to actually do the color change. So coordinating with the conversation that Linda was having with the safety department, if you had a color that you needed to throw up as a safety color, you can literally do that instantaneously from anywhere in the world, which would allow you some nice things. Or if they score a touchdown or something like that, you can have the lights just change or whatever. It's also programmable to come on different effects, different times of the day. If you needed it to come on for, let's say we wanted to do breast cancer awareness, you could schedule in breast cancer awareness or Back to Blue or St. Patrick's Day or Friday Night Lights, whatever it is, you can actually schedule that in so all the lights will do exactly what you're wanting them to, so they don't have to be maintained on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And basically, they would just, the picture here shows it, just the outlines of the top of the buildings and around the roof line of the buildings.
And I can run out and grab that track if you need to see what the track looks like that this mounts in. But the purpose of the track is to actually hide the lights in the daytime, so you aren't seeing as your normal historical reference of Christmas lights up on your buildings. These are actually just a hidden track that stays up there all year round.
Any questions?
What's the normal longevity of those lights? How long they normally last?
So they have a 50,000 hour burn expectancy. They have a 2-year warranty. On the lights, the track has a 5-year warranty.
If one bulb burns out in a section, does that eliminate all of them, or just that one bulb?
Just that one. And most of the time what's going to happen is it's going to be that section of track, that 5 to 25 section of, lights that are going to go out, and then you're just going to go and you're going to replace that one section. So for example,
the whole section, not one bulb or something.
Right. So these run as a These run as a section. So, for example, this is a section from point to point right here where they're screwed in right here. So if it's going to go out, this section is going to go out. So a section of 25 might go out or something like that. But the change out on it is not difficult if we did have that problem.
It's just a Romex that you just unscrew and screw right back in. That's all you do. And that's made, it's not, you know how you got the old Christmas lights that you have problems with your water and GFCIs popping and all that stuff. So we got the coaxial here that takes care of that water problem. Plus it's inside a track too, so.
And they're IP65 rated, which means they'll withstand rain. They can be dunked in water, but not on long term. They're designed to be completely submerged over long term.
Pretty neat product. You can be laying on the beach and change it. Yeah.
Windows fully endorsed by Jeff Trout too. Mr. Lights back there.
I would want to ask too.
Yeah, Jeff can answer any questions. Yeah. I think it would really highlight our downtown.
If you guys were going to do this, like when we met with you guys is March or April, and we looked at maybe doing this in the fall. If something like that was going to happen, it needs to happen like soon. To be able to get enough product in here, we've got a lot of people ordering this right now. So just to make sure that there's no hiccups, it needs to be done fast, and we'll be ready to go, you know, October 1st if you wanted to. If that didn't happen, we probably need to put it off till, you know, after the first year. It's according to how, you know, you guys, you know, want to do that. So anyway.
Is this the only type you do?
No.
And why I'm asking that, we have a fountain downtown that has a line inside of it, and we manually have to change those out.
Is it in water?
It's in water. Do you make a product that would change with this? That
would fit in that underwater?
Say we did red downtown. Do you have a product?
We currently don't have an RGB product that's submergible, 100% submergible for long term. Obviously, we have other products that we can shine from other locations on the fountain, but having something actually in the water projecting up and giving that ambiance that you're wanting to create with that fountain in an RGB effect, we don't have a water-type fixture that holds the bulb for that. We do have a different bulb. When it comes on RGB, we can do everything. One of the things we talked about was lighting your water tower as well. I know we talked about that a little bit as well. We have a new product that just came in that I've actually asked them to ship to me to bring down here and actually put on your water tower to see what a true effect was going to be, because you guys have a dark colored water tower. And all the effects that we've seen have been on white reflective paint. And so before I sit here and say this is the product for that. So we do have other products that can do other RGB applications. And we have a light for that, but we don't have a watertight control for that specifically. That's a long way to get to that answer of not really.
What kind of lights do they actually have? Are they LED lights? Is that what they are? What kind of lights are actually in them?
Yeah, these are all
LED.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I think as Manager Ross said, this would fall under the Courthouse Square application. Use funds that way.
What would it cost us for the whole?
It was around 50,000. It was around 50.
Yeah, to add the blue buildings on there, it brought it up to about 50.
Yeah, if you add
the buildings you've got outlined.
Yeah, if you add the Pastimes Antiques and the other side of Annabelle.
Back side.
So all that around the courthouse?
Well, that's not the courthouse, that's Annabelle.
I know, but
Yeah.
All the buildings around the courthouse.
What about the courthouse? Will they not be on, does that come under county?
Yeah,
that'd be county.
We could do it, you know, after they got done.
Yeah, we just tried to get the buildings surrounding the courthouse.
I'm interested in saying that.
Yeah.
But the focus is actually on the commercial businesses and to draw attention to them.
You'd be the talk of the.
Yeah, as you come off the bridge, you come into town, and it would just really, it would pop right downtown.
It would light our downtown up and make it look good.
This area, this picture that you're looking at right here is actually one of the cities in Texas that we did. And when we went and actually did this city, it has now become a draw, and they really pushed Christmas in a big way, specifically in this town, since we've added this type of lighting to the town.
And I think a good thing too about it's in the track, you don't see like bulbs, like the Christmas bulbs, like
well, if you could paint that water tower white, that would really pop. Yeah, it's a eye catcher, but that white, a colored light will bounce off of white. It won't bounce off of black, it's just eats it up. But well, if you can get it white, it'll really pop. I love that stuff. I love people stand back and go, wow, when they come into town,
I think that's what.
City have this?
No.
And Carolyn's a downtown merchant, or has been, what do you think about it, Carolyn?
I mean, I think I loved it, yeah.
One caveat to all this is we would look for the property owner's permission to do this. All these buildings are privately held. The simplest way to do this would be in the form of a simple utility easement, and we would look to the Merchants Association to secure that permission from the buildings that are identified.
Because you'd have to put power in there, and we need Wi-Fi in there too, at some place.
One building.
Again, the simplest way would be for the city to simply supply the electricity to the LED as a street light.
Just like a street light, yeah.
The power draw on this is minuscule, obviously because it's LED. You're looking at the whole city maybe taking 30 amps of power total for everything.
Now, do they come on when you can start? Is that what triggers them to come on?
You can set them on a timer, however you want to do it. And you can control that with your phone too. But we would give access to certain people. We don't want everybody in town changing the light. So.
Trout better get ready.
We give it to Jeff if he wants it.
He's itching to get started.
Yeah, we're already putting them up, so you better hurry up.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a lot of fun and we enjoy it. And that's another thing about our company is we got $4 million worth of general liability insurance. We pay workman's comp. Our guys wear uniforms. Our vehicles are marked. We're not got a bunch of guys in here in a bunch of beer cheap T-shirts or anything like that. So, and I'll provide that to you if you need it. I'll give you a copy of it. Matter of fact, Full Line Insurance does our insurance for us. So
that's what I like about when he's a local vendor.
We're right here if you need us.
That's doing professional work all over the place.
I'm interested. So we really appreciate it. Hope we can do some work with you.
Great presentation. Thanks, guys.
And he needs us to get with him to do it.
Yeah, well, we have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks. Be decided. We can vote on it.
Yeah, it's a local procurement. If this is, again, we would definitely want feedback from the downtown merchants as to whether this is, whether permission is feasible. But after that, I think you're off to the races. A unanimous vote would secure the local contract.
And that would give them the ability to purchase, order things and stuff like that. Okay, next up is still downtown, and we're talking about another need that's very prevalent downtown. If you talk to many of the merchants down there, it's parking. More parking downtown. So, Manager Ross, I'll let you introduce our next speaker presentation.
Sure. I'd like to introduce John Kerry, son of Bo Kerry, and he's a commercial real estate broker and just happened to have a sign in the yard downtown. And it was a bit before Christmas this past year. There was a vocalization here in this room at a council meeting, a general complaint about lack of parking downtown. And there are several representatives of the Merchants Association here tonight. I see them in the audience, and throughout COVID, I've heard the cries. We need help. We need attention. That's the purpose of the lighting project, and that's the purpose of this next proposal, and which is my initial conversation with John Kerry about a certain piece of property. Would you like to describe those, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And we got some slides set up here. I will say I've seen those lights at Wrigley Field. Those look really nice, the red and blue there. So I've seen them. They look good.
I will say, along with Manager Ross's introduction, when I saw the sign down there for sale, I did inquire about, because I've heard the same complaints about parking, and So Manager Ross and I discussed it, and we got in touch with John, and here we are today.
Yeah, so what this is a commercial zone lot. It's right there in the just west of Greer's on Mulberry Street before the antique shop. And, there's a lot of issues here that it can resolve, most importantly parking and also safety issues, a lot of merchant complaints. Once the courthouse gets rev back up, we're going to have an even bigger need for more things, especially with the development and, possibly Riverside development, all the things happening downtown, both now and in the future. So you can see here where the new parking would be. That was, the main intersection there is just north, the main intersection in town, Mulberry and Grove. It's actually 3 vacant lots, commercial lots there. And so that's where it would be. And let's see here. So 4th Street, which is across the street there behind Tommy's, that's just become a free-for-all. I know I was, I think it was a Tuesday, I was coming back around lunchtime and I had trouble finding a parking spot to go to Greer's. So there was just a lot of nothing on Grove Street, and also it takes away from a lot of those merchants that could be doing business on Grove Street, Wharf Street, Mulberry Street. They might be losing some business from that point of view. The parallel parking, on Mulberry, and then, it's right on the street. A lot of people can get sideswiped there, so that's unsafe. Also, you'll see how the Grove Street coming across the Grove and Mulberry entrance, the Grove and Mulberry intersection, as well as the intersection of Cedar Street and Grove Street are very dangerous for pedestrians. It's just a lot of cars, a lot of blockage. Court days disrupts a lot of retail, a lot of businesses there. There's just not enough parking, and it's happened throughout pretty much any day of the week.
A lot of those days, I'm sure court, they can be there all day. They could be parked there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much the biggest part of the day.
Yeah. So who's going to park there? We're going to have Tommy's employees, TikTok employees, Southeastern Title there at the corner of Grove and Mulberry, the general store, the old machine shop, Greer's employees and customers, barber shop. I can say that Greer's is using a lot of their employees to they're having to park on Grove and take up spots that would be used for customers. But I think also many other businesses, you can say that about them, that, for instance, Tommy's, a lot of people are taking up their spots that, for instance, could be courthouse parking in the future, or someone that was simply just going across the street. And, so there's just a lot of businesses being affected right now. Barbershop, Francis Hair Salon, Simply Serendipity, Kimberly May, Old Mercantile, and Casa employees, so right there along Grove Street. Mulberry.
Yeah, that's Tommy's. I think I counted there's about 25 or so, 25 and 30 spaces in there. And all those businesses are trying to share that same space.
Yeah, so you can see Tommy's there. Yeah, it's seems to be full quite a bit with the new businesses there on that part of Grove Street. So here's what I was talking about with the dangerous pedestrian areas. It's right there. You can see on the spot on the north, that is Grove and Mulberry. If you've ever walked through there, it's not the most safe place. There's a lot of heavy traffic coming through Mulberry right there. And then down here at Cedar and Grove, again, a very, very dangerous intersection. If you were to be walking towards the courthouse across there, you have cars parked there, and you're having to walk almost halfway out or towards into the street just to see if there's a car coming. Another thing is just those spots along Grove Street that would alleviate some of that, where that's can be dangerous pulling out of there in your car. So this would really help those two intersections. Here's some other considerations. right now with COVID-19, we can expect more business coming in with a lot of new businesses that have already come in prior to COVID-19. Also with the courthouse, as mentioned, we know that will congest a lot of downtown once they get back into session. A new day spa and Rocky Top buildings coming. That'll add to the parking problems at Grove and Cedar, which was one of the more dangerous intersections we mentioned for pedestrians. We want to get more pedestrians downtown. 2 lower level retail spaces at the Walker building off of 4th Street. Retail and restaurant traffic heavily dependent on perceived parking convenience. So a lot of that is, some people may come and if they can't get a parking spot, they may not provide business, or excuse me, they may not be consumers at the end of the day because they say, well, I'm just going to drive on. So that's something to think about, where you're going to have a lot of people that are just simply looking to park quick and be able to get in and out easily. Eliminates the highly visible downtown ugly property behind Greer's. It's a bit of an eyesore, and it's a commercial lot, and it's been there a long time, just vacant, and it's good use of downtown property. Key location, just based on where it is. There's not much vacant land near the main intersection there, and that's something where this would be general parking for anyone. We discussed ideas where it could be, this could be a farmer's market could be there, on certain days. And then, this is going to be public parking as mentioned, and then it'll be free parking. Seashell Museum that's coming in will eventually need more parking spaces. It's very close to that. It's just a key location. It's a great location to support all of downtown Loudon. Bill's Courtyard, we hope to have something in there soon. That would be, that it's very walkable from there as well. Here's the first option where the gray is where you would have the parking lots. Is that correct, Jeff? Mm-hmm. The gray, so the gray right there, and this would provide 18 parking spots. So you can see it's more of a straightforward 2 blocks there. You could have, if needed, let's see, I guess on the southwest corner of the lot nearest the antique store, so on the left of your screen where that white car is, you could have potentially a plaza, picnic tables, etc., things like that, just to beautify it a bit, use some landscaping, and then so that's that. Option B.
That's 18 spaces.
18 spaces, yes. And then this option B here is 21 spaces, so a little more dynamic, more space actually being used, and then of course more parking spaces. This is 21 spaces. And still allows for, of course, the farmer's market, things like that. If we wanted to have, events, a weekend event or whatever it may be, just something for a few days. And this also allows for the plaza, picnic tables, benches, things like that on the northwest part. So the parking lot proposal, Cedar Street right now, that would be the entrance, 18 to 21, depending on the plan. I tend to favor the one with 21, more parking. Asphalt would be paved, the deck and sitting area, plaza. We would have some landscaping, so it wouldn't just be a big ugly lot. And then it's steps to Mulberry Street. So you're walking right there. You don't have to, even though you might go in through Cedar Street to park, you can walk in to Mulberry and you're right there in the middle of downtown. Or you can walk around the back to Cedar if you're going to the courthouse, or where's the restaurants over there.
Okay, any questions about the parking proposal?
We definitely need more parking, that's for sure.
You can't, there's no entrance from Mulberry Street. You'll have to go all the way behind Greer's.
For vehicles.
For this particular surveyor, I don't think felt comfortable. Did he?
Ms. James, it's possible. It would just require some engineering in order to deal with the difference in elevation between the street and the lot. It's not impossible, but it would add cost. But it's something we could look at.
But, as mentioned, there could be pedestrian ingress, egress there, onto Mulberry to get up there. So you wouldn't have to walk all the way around to get over to Tommy's or TikTok's. Any other questions?
Come out of the courthouse fund?
It is an eligible expenditure of courthouse square dollars, yes. That's ultimately up to the council.
And there again, it's a shared asset by a lot of businesses and industry or not industry, but businesses and pedestrians downtown.
Do we know what kind of underground is down there?
We have a general idea. It's marked on the survey. It's a little small on your screen. I apologize. We have a general idea of what's down there in terms of Loudon utilities and stormwater drainage.
Would they require to be relocated, or what would you have to do with those? Put them deeper? I don't understand. Have you done a survey as far as laid out a plot and a grade plan yet to know what kind of elevation you're going to put it on?
Not specifically. I've talked in general terms with gas, water, sewer, and then the electric department. We're looking at relocating the utilities, including the overhead that's along Cedar Street. We think the street as a whole would be more attractive if we could reroute that overhead, and Bill Watkins believes that there's a better route for it.
It'd have to be somewhat fill put in, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I thought it had to be. There's no way around it.
And you got that drain that you can see there down through there.
Yes, I noticed both of those. And I don't know if they need to raise or lower or whatever you would have to do, really.
What is the price of this?
So agreed upon negotiated price is $53,500, and just as a commercial broker, I can say so the public and private appraisals came in right around $67,000. So that's I will say from our point of view as the sellers, we are trying to come down a bit on price to accommodate the city. We think it's something win-win where this will help our business, of course, as all the downtown businesses as well. This is, in my opinion, well worth the money. We're asking 21% below public or private appraisal value, and that's unheard of for what's considered a small commercial sale of less than $100,000. That's even with commercial properties in the millions, you don't see anyone coming down that much on price. So we really want to make this happen. It's a fantastic price that we worked out, and we're hoping to move forward with it and just alleviate all the problems downtown. That's going to help with Grove Street, Wharf, Cedar Street, you name it. The lot there by the pharmacy. So everything's going to it will be the general free public parking lot.
If you remember, there was a house in there too that had to be removed, and that's.
So will Greer's still be using the back of their store for tractor trailer deliveries going in this new lot?
Yes. So there's an easement there, right off Cedar Street, right there, and so we will be using that. One of the telephone poles will be moved west. So we will be able to have tractor trailers brought in there, but it won't be going over the parking lot. So it'll be totally separate. It won't be going over the land, the land that's still being developed.
Well, I would think that number one, we need to do, get a plan and find out what's underground, what we got to move, what we don't have to move. Try to get the whole total bill put together before we move on it. I think and it won't take that long to do, but we need to know what that top number is going to be.
Just the total cost and everything.
Well, one possible avenue is to enter into a commercial agreement to purchase the property for the price mentioned. Then there would be a due diligence period after that where we can investigate if there's any roadblocks or hindrances or red flags as to construction of what is envisioned, which would be a public parking lot. We could always pull out.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that we need to park. Okay, that's not even a question. It wouldn't be a question. I would like to know wouldn't take a half a day or more to lay it out and do some grade shooting and find out what you want, but you just got to make it find what you want. I mean, right now we've not decided what elevation we want to call grade on it. We don't even know that yet. So those are some of the answers that we need to have, I think.
So we don't wind up spending $300,000 or $400,000 for a parking lot. And I don't think it'd be that much.
For the due diligence period, it's a contingency period.
Right.
And if you're not inclined to go that route, we can hire a consultant to provide a cost estimate.
Any other questions or comments? So is this something we need to?
I just have one input. With steps to Mulberry Street sidewalk, is that literal steps? Or, because I know, like, Councilman Moons, you brought up a great point when we were talking about the parking in front of the diner with more ADA requirements. So I'm just wondering, is that going to be ADA compliant? Because you're probably going to have to have like a ramp or a slope at a certain grade. And then, you know, so many, in a new parking lot, you have to have so many handicap spaces, you know, in that, and have those factored in?
It's as it is right now, there's not like a 90-degree drop off there. There's a public alley that's, you know, at an angle, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Because for a public thing, you're always going to have to make that accessible too.
Right.
As it stands now, the Mulberry side is blocked off with a rail.
But we would put a ramp in to get up to Mulberry if we do it.
You need to.
We wouldn't have to do steps, we can just do a ramp.
Yeah, you can do it.
I think ramp would be more efficient, steps would be period.
I think we talked about that.
That would be. Okay, so is this something we need to put on our agenda for 2 weeks? How do y'all want to proceed with it? As Manager Ross said, we could do a contingency.
If we did a 90-day contingency, we can do all this homework in that period.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions for John or Bo or Mr. Ham, Kerry? Any questions for me? Okay, thank you all.
Mayor, Council, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is economic development. Jack Quall is going to present an update, I think, if he's still here. Yeah, he's still
here. I'm here. Thank you for having me tonight. I'd like to start off with a few items. Let's start off with Queener Road. No, Queener Road's always on everybody's mind, and it stays fresh on my mind. We had a budget shortfall recently on Queener Road project that was $1.9 million. That is essentially because the project has drug on as long as it has, and some of the other drainage issues that were addressed as part of the road. I was able to work with the TPO and with TDOT in order to get, and Jeff, our mayor, to get those funds allocated. And so those funds have been put in place right now. They are under review by FHWA. That brings our budget up from $1.4 million to roughly about $3.3 million for Queener Road. Your city matching funds will go up a little bit. At the end of the day, it's around $400,000. The project itself, the bid book will be issued to TDOT along with some other items. Right now, we are tied up in a NEPA document. That is an environmental document for review. It had to be recertified. That was sent to TDOT back in May, and it should be approved any day. Once that's approved, we should get a notice to proceed to construction. Hopefully we'll be able to still bid this out in October. In a COVID world, that's a perfect world, end of October. In a COVID world, it's probably going to be more like December, but we're being hopeful it will still be in October. Right now on the street, you have the CEI for that grant or for that road project is bid out. We are soliciting bids from engineering companies in order to do the certified engineering inspection for the project. So once that happens, once the project kicks off, those services have to be done by a different vendor. They're not allowed by TDOT rules or federal rules to be provided by the same engineering firm. Questions for me on?
Questions for Jack on
Queener Road. I know that's always a big one.
Really appreciate Jack working to get the thing fully funded. Any questions? Okay.
Okay. Moving on, your ITS project with intelligence. You want to go to that one next? Okay, we can go to that one next.
Okay.
TDOT Industrial Access Grant. As we talked, gosh, back in November, the project across the road had been purchased for a new manufacturing facility. This is part of that project. We have asked TDOT to assist with creating a new traffic signal at this interchange to basically provide access to not only alleviate the traffic issues we have now with congestion in the afternoons when all the facilities get out, but also to be able to get product back and forth across from Highway 11 there onto Natalie Boulevard. So in front of you, for your consideration at your next meeting, will be a resolution to support this project through TDOT. TDOT will be designing this project as well as constructing the project. Currently, there's utilities that will have to be relocated somewhere in the $90,000 range. That's subject to change as time goes on. It could be less. We could hopefully maybe partner with TVA. I think most of the utility lines are electrical issues. But this project, if we were to hit the go button tomorrow, you're looking at about 18 to 24 months project.
Okay, any questions about this proposal?
Okay, moving on. Just want to bring you up to date on the Sugar Limb property that we brought in front of you back in November. That property did sell. That was $50,000 for the piece of property down from Del Conca, and also the property, the flowage easement down in front of the Malibu plant. $25 has come, that revenue was generated and has come to the city as of 2 or 3 weeks ago. So just update on that. The county did get their portion as well. The other $25,000 up to 50-50 because it was a Sugar Limb access. Questions from you on that one? Okay. Go back to your ITS project. That project currently, that is the CMAQ ITS Intelligent Transportation System. Sorry for the acronyms. That is going right now. The final construction plans are under review with TDOT. We hope to have that approved and move forward. The reevaluation, that was also a project that had to be reevaluated from the NEPA standpoint. We received that on August 4th. So hopefully that project will be finally reviewed by TDOT, get their blessing, and we can bid it out sometime this fall.
Everybody remember that's all the traffic signals.
Are we still on track for the southbound traffic?
They have tried, what has happened with the southbound traffic is they're trying to wrap it in with a larger transportation project. Right now, TDOT's going back and forth with that study to see if it's something they're wanting to do a study to 3-lane from Pond Gap Road all the way up to Watt Road. And so they're wanting to wrap it into that project. I've asked them to consider separating it again, and right now they're reviewing that request.
Well, I was under the impression it was already a go for the traffic light on.
It was a go. TDOT basically said they would partner with us at 50%, and then they came back and said, well, we won't include it as part of a different project.
Okay, any other questions for Jack or while he's here?
Bring you up to speed a little bit on the riverfront development. Had a new developer visit us week before last, or in July rather, and we went over some of the master plan and some of the other plans that we've had in place, and it piqued some interest. They're right now reviewing our demographics to do a study to kind of see what will work for their project. This is essentially the residential component that's in the interior lots there along the riverfront. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll get some good news out of that. A couple more items here, and I'll be brief. The TPO has a couple projects right now. That is the Knoxville Transportation Plan Organization. It's where a lot of our federal fundings come from road projects. We basically had 2 projects in the hopper that were not funded last cycle. That was Card Machine and Grove Street resurfacing projects. My question to you tonight would be those applications are going to be due by September 4th. Do you want to roll forward the Grove Street resurfacing project? Or do you have other projects that you would like for me to submit? These are your large projects like Aquina Road or, your 80-20 match federal and state NPO and TPO monies.
But they have to be connected streets with state roads, right?
They have to be connected with functional classified roads.
Would Sticky fall under that? It's from Grove to 72.
I don't know if it's functionally classified or not, but it's probably, a lot of times it's based on the traffic counts and the design of the road. That's something we can look at.
Would you look at that?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there was some talks earlier on about Marymount Drive and Corporate Drive being added to the list.
Park Drive and Marymount Drive, kind of in the Blair Bend model of, heavy truck traffic and trying to pique TDOT's interest in that way.
Corporate Park Drive is pretty bad shape. Yeah.
But these grants can also be used for like drainage, like right there at where you're going up the climbing hill there at 11. I mean, you've got some major drainage through there. I mean, that's something if you wanted to look at a major project, it's something that these projects this is a 2045 plan we're talking about here, folks. So these are long-term projects. That's the context we need to think about it. So.
And Jack just needs some direction from us on what to apply for.
Last but not least, talk to you basically about the last item I have is the Transportation Alternative Program, the TAP grant. This was what the Riverfront grants, the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 we applied for. The Phase 2 did not get funded the last cycle of 2020. I have talked with TDOT. They would recommend the city going back after a grant. It's something that I've advised the mayor and Manager Ross on looking at maybe taking the Phase 2 and reapplying for that grant. That would be the river walk between the bridge and back over toward Pearl Harbor area to the senior center, connected up to the senior center. You're going to get more buy-in from TDOT by connectivity, safety improvements, and things like that. So that's something we need to think about if it's something you're interested in going after that grant, or if you would like me to go after another grant. That deadline is on October 2nd.
So that deadline's fast approaching. Just for the benefit of council and the audience, what is the match on that grant?
It's an 80-20 grant, but it's solely for construction. So that's any kind of NEPA documents you're required to do, and also the design, which is a large portion of the work, has to be paid up front 100% through the locals match.
So the engineering and everything.
That's correct.
Ty, is this the grant we was talking about maybe using for dredging the harbor?
No, that's a different one, sir.
These are your sidewalks, your greenways, your bike facilities, historic transportation preservation type things. That's essentially what this is.
It's more pedestrian.
It is more pedestrian. And, a lot of these projects, they are costly because they do have to follow PROAG and ADA standards. PROAG is the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, which means you have to have certain grades and meet certain criteria. So
it's a matter of just resubmitting, updating our application, I guess, and resubmitting.
And just to follow up Councilmember Brewster's idea, is it possible to shoehorn boat traffic into that?
Not unless it's a ferry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to carry pedestrian. Okay, do y'all think that's worth resubmitting?
I'll make sure we're going to use it this time.
Now, hear what he said. Mm-hmm. The engineering and the environmental and preliminary civil engineering is 100%.
100%.
That's not
local,
a match.
Local funding.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We need to be for sure that we're dedicated to it this time, because if we lose another, if if we release our funding back to the state again, chances of us ever getting it's going to be slim to none.
We'll still get money. The phase one, we just put the cart before the horse, so to speak. We still, to this day, we don't really know what that park feature is going to look like. So for us to go after a phase one grant, that's a little premature in my opinion, but.
There's still a lot of moving pieces, I guess, that weren't, and time was against us.
Yep.
If we vote to go with it, though, do we have to go ahead and lock that money down, Nicole, the match?
We would need to have that in mind. I think before we're going to use part of the courthouse square funds to help with that local match. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about what to do with those funds, the balance there. We need to take a strong look at our cash balances and how much we would be committing to this project. So we need to run numbers on that.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I've done a course correction. I haven't gotten a lot of, positive feedback on long-term Riverwalk plans. It seems that the downtown merchants want something more immediate, more impactful right now, and that's why we designed what we put for you this evening.
These things take time. Chattanooga's waterfront was not built overnight. And we've made, as a small town, a big step in getting the Hutch property to the condition it's in today. And I think each one of you can pat yourself on the back for that. It's come a long ways, in a short period of time.
Okay, anything else, Jack?
That's all.
Okay, thanks for the update. Any questions for Jack?
One more.
Yeah, what you got?
Can you look for some money on dredging our harbor?
Well, I think Manager Ross is looking at some monies for that specific. I know we've talked about ARC grants and some other grants that are available that we hope to tap into as they come available.
Yeah, we did the study with ARC funds. That was what paid for Thompson Engineering, and there's about $300,000 available for construction. There's a match involved, but we were in line for that now because we did what we were supposed to do to begin with.
I think TVA told us that there's a possibility this permit could be approved in November since we're sticking with the original plans. It would be nice to have money to move forward with the dredging permit.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, we're coming down to planning services, fee resolution.
Fee resolution, sorry for boring at the end, but in our planning services team approach, we still have to charge fees, and you see before you a schedule of fees for anything from a rezoning application to a final plan review. These fees are in line with what the county and what Lenore City charges.
Okay. So we're just copying and implementing our own fee schedule.
We can't charge a fee to any citizen that you do not approve.
Right. Any questions about the fee resolution as presented? Okay, next item is the pay schedule amendment.
So these, I want to thank Jack Qualls and his specialty assistants with our planning documents. You see before you 3 samples, 4 samples. Two are forms and their applications for various planning services, and 2 others are flow charts to explain to the applicant what is in front of them, and each step in this process, each blank in your form is something that's required in your ordinance. Your requirements are the maximum effort we require of an applicant. But all the forms embrace what you have put into law.
I think a checklist like this will be very handy for people that come in needing planning services. They can pick that up here at City Hall.
Pick that up at City Hall or the Customer Service Center. The instructions to our team is to just be sticky at both locations. And if somebody gets tongue-tied or needs additional assistance, send them to me. And I always carry a cell phone with me.
It's also available it will also be available on the website. So
okay.
That's correct.
Looking for information after hours.
Okay. Good job there. The pay schedule amendment.
Pay schedule amendment, you approve the salary and benefits of all employees. As we presented to you at prior meetings, we were previously paying $25,000 to the county. We put forth a plan where 4 employees, myself, Nicole Curtis, Travis Gray, and Brooke Millsaps would be the planning team. They would be compensated 5% above what they make now in pay, and that would be an amendment to your pay resolution.
Okay. Any questions about that?
There was a question before about the shared employees, which is myself and Nicole Curtis, and we wanted to start with you, and because this is, we didn't plan for this, but we reacted to it, and we think we put together something that's cost effective and customer service friendly, and it can accommodate the needs of this community. But we wanted to start with you about approval, and then I'll go to the utility board next with those 2 nuances.
I personally, because 5% is a good amount, but it's a better amount for you than it is for Brooke. I would like to see a breakdown in the duties, extra duties that are going to come to each employee, just in case we want to not do 5%, but do a rate.
With your salary schedule, you can do anything you like. Brooke is here this evening, and she'll be in charge of the agenda and the minutes of the meetings.
So if you can just get me something, what's the extra duties? And I know that you may not know that completely right now until we get going in it, but I think that would be a good thing to see what extra duties are going to be put on each member, just for consideration.
We'll put that document together.
Thank you.
Okay.
But what we're going to be voting on in 2 weeks is 5% of the city's portion of your salary and Nicole's salary, right?
Yeah,
And then utility board.
I guess that's where he says starting here, right?
That's correct.
And then he would go to the utilities.
But just for clarification, we'll vote in 2 weeks, 5% of the city's portion of.
There's a salary schedule, and it's 5% increase to Ms. Millsaps, Mr. Gray, and according to the breakdown of shared services, it's 25% of me and 25% of Ms. Curtis.
Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay.
Didn't you and Pino talk about this? About the utility board pitching in on some of this?
Pino and I discussed it, and like I say, Pino's going to depend on his board to,
Did y'all have it? Did they have it at the utility board meeting?
There was nothing discussed about it.
Oh. I'm not against it. I just want, it needs to be equaled out there. Because he's going to help the utility board just as much as he's going to help us by Ty doing it.
Okay, closing comments. I know we've had a long meeting.
Yeah, it has.
Any closing comments from anyone?
I'm good.
Okay. Everybody? That's okay. Any closing comments from a department head, or everybody's ready to go, I'm sure? Okay, if there's no other comments, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank y'all for coming and hanging with us the whole time.
This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.